Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing all right.
All right. We've not been around for a while, but I don't know if there's been a lot to go on and to talk about. Diggs, you're the one that's, I think, been most connected within Ashes, or have you fallen off a little bit too?
Oh no, I'm stuck way deep in the forums every day. People are loving it, of course.
That's where you belong. So I'm going to actually let you kind of take the lead on this. I'm not so the general idea or theme of tonight is crafting. So we can kind of touch on some of that. I've been playing a lot of BDO, which has been incredibly fun. But obviously we're an Ashes show, so we want to somehow tie that in.
I was actually expecting us to be generic today since you've been playing a lot of BDO. I played BDO the last couple weeks. I think I might have been on at the same time you were at some point, but we didn't hook up. I was trying to do some fishing for you, but I kept the fish in my inventory.
Well, you should. I have plenty of fish, but we can get into some of that.
Yeah, I think it rotted by the time we were almost going to play together.
I'm curious about something.
Yes.
I guess I'm making an assumption. Neuro, how much have you been paying attention? To I know you watched the live
Ashes
stream.
of Creation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of in a state of not a lot to show right now, to be perfectly honest, because we're between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. So I think they're a little reluctant to kind of really show what we're going to be seeing. They'll talk about it. They kind of reiterated a lot of what we kind of already knew about Alpha 2, and maybe I don't think there were too many other details. One of the things that they're saying is they are actually kind of happy that this was the time that they started getting hit by the security breaches, not much later on. They also said they're working on a phone app that's not just for more secure logins to the website and the game, but maybe there's other things you'll be able to do with it, like a very amount of light home management stuff, perhaps, or who knows, paying your dues, paying your taxes. Pay your video game taxes online using the Ashes of Creation app. That sounds ridiculous, but if it saves you from having to log into the game while you're like, oh crap, I forgot to pay.
But that's the state of video games, right? I was actually thinking of this the other day. I saw a lawn mowing simulator. It's like you have simulators for real life activities that people will sit and play in their living rooms, but then pay someone else to do because they don't want to actually do it in real life. It's just like, okay.
In real life, it's this thing where you got to push a thing around your yard. The lawn mowing simulator, you're in this big old thing.
And you get sweaty.
Buzzing around a giant area with it.
Taxes, I guess, are, you have a point. Most games have some sort of tax system in place now as a money sink, so... Anyways, I was just curious because I've just really fallen out of touch with it. There's several reasons. I'm just busy in general, but part of it is I'm just not interested like I was, and I think that's just that this, as you mentioned, the state of testing that we're in, kind of this in between phase. But then also I'm just not interested in what they've been testing.
They're also in the process of kind of getting the office back up and running. At the time of the show, they said they've got about 70% of the staff in. I think there was just some snafu with furniture again or something, and they're still working on getting everybody else fully set up or whatever. Maybe that was the last time. Oh no, I think maybe this was the time where they were talking about, or it might have been the last time as well. They had to knock down a wall. No, I think that was the last episode.
Yeah, because they put up a wall where it wasn't supposed to be, so they had to knock it down.
I mean, that'd be. Did Steven get to do that? I'd have fun knocking down the wall.
Yeah, I don't think he actually got to do the demo himself.
That's too bad. I just wonder because I went to Ash's post to just see the transcript because I didn't watch I haven't watched the last couple of videos or live streams, and they don't have a transcript. So I don't know. It just makes me start wondering how much in the background things are starting to fall for them, which is not, I guess, necessarily a bad thing. I mean, having less focus on you at a time when they've been having some troubles in development is not a bad thing. I mean, let New World take the stage at this point, I guess. I don't know, just curious.
They had a video featuring the Thundering Bolt Beast, Terror Bird, a little bit of the changes and stuff they've been working on with some of the graphics and I think aiming related stuff. And then they talked about that for a while. They showed a lot of assets. I feel like, again, it was a lot of just reiterating what we kind of knew about like Alpha 1 to Alpha 2, showing off some assets. The new Samurai set, the Renkai set is out.
I was going to mention that because I'm glad that we have a Asian cultural armor set, something that's not quite so European. That's nice. I have to remember to get it. When does that switch over? Is that?
I think that just happened on the 1st.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned assets because I still pop in Twitter every once in a while, though I don't even really get onto that much anymore. And, I'll see some stuff scroll through. They have some of the, in my opinion, ugliest looking creatures and mounts. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I know Steven likes.
I know you didn't like the giant cat mount.
I mean, they just look ridiculous. Like, I don't know. To each their own. I'm not going to pay for that, but I'm just still trying to envision this world that we're going to be running around and what kind of crazy. I guess in my mind, and this is maybe wrong on my part, I think of the lore tying in areas, right? So you have general themes and how things look in different cultures, but here we're going to have the weirdest looking environment from all these crazy ass mounts and pets.
Yeah, well, it was going to be anyway. If hypothetically these are all alternative versions or equivalent alternatives to something that we'll be able to find as an in-game creature, that means all these things are going to be in the game. They were already going to be in there and being weird.
Yeah, it's a high magic setting, and one of the things, my question is, I have to ask this somewhere. I was thinking about asking it on Twitter this morning, is what are the Sanctus influences on cultural sets and animals? Are we bringing in animals that are unique to Sanctus? Are we bringing them through the portal to Vera when we come through? I mean, we've been on Sanctus for thousands of years, and I would expect that maybe there's some stuff that we don't even remember from Vera, and some stuff that we only know because, that's what was on Sanctus. So I really want to know.
It's something I think they try to reveal a little bit with the gardener guy Piratet over at the Nala Ferry camp, because he's from the sound of it, he didn't really bring much of any plants over from Sanctus, and being all about the plant life and I guess more not gardening. The word escapes me right now, but that being his focus, he's mostly focused on the stuff that's in Vera and not what he used to be able to access at the Grand Palace Garden or whatever back in Sanctus.
Yeah, I mean that's an NPC though. Well, the PCs. I mean, and that's one. So we have to.
Well,
see.
we all come through level 1 without a horse, so that says something. We ain't special.
If we watch it, we're all heroes actually, just for coming through the portal. So, um, I think we might bring some stuff. We might bring some pets. I mean, who knows? Doesn't have to be a horse. Maybe we don't bring
I
any
don't know.
mounts. Maybe we'll just bring pets.
I'm just still
And
having a hard time visioning. I'm at my farm, get on my horse, got to go down to my friend's house as I pass someone on a cat, someone on a dog, someone on a giraffe.
yeah,
Seeing a
it's
big
high
old
magic.
multicolored bear somewhere as I stroll past a volcano, eventually getting to some Harry Potter looking cabin.
Yeah,
I
it's
just-
high magic.
Yeah, but even, I mean, in general, when I think of high magic themes, books, games, movies, things have consistency. Now, maybe from area to area, it varies, but within one area.
I just watched Shang-Chi, and there are some wild-looking animals in that movie.
Well, it's driving me crazy. I start to think how they're just doing this to get money out of their skins because they're just putting together weird pieces of animals.
It's supposed to be weird because it's high magic. It's not.
And it's supposed to be
Earth.
seemingly like pieces of animals, so that way it can use all the skeleton rigs they already have, and they don't have to make new rigs for things because that's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's
I
part of
mean,
it.
we have Tolnar, for heaven's sake. I don't know. It seems like
Yeah.
lots of stuff got stuck together. That's a thing that happened while we were away at Sanctus. So, corruption did some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they hid down in Funky Town, and all the tribes got together and did the thing, and
Well,
so
and
that's what we got.
That's those secluded people. What happened? All the crazy stuff that happened on top of the world while they were hiding from it.
They died.
So, no,
It was like apocalypse happened. Remember?
no, there weren't humans there, or humanoids.
So here's a
there,
question, Diggs.
maybe.
If you're tying in high magic as a reason to have weird ass looking mounts, how do you tie that in a lore perspective that you have some people that live in like volcano looking things?
It's high magic.
Yeah,
can
but
do
how do you
just
tie
about
that in?
anything. What do you mean tie it in?
About anything. Anyways.
Yeah,
Anyways, what's
it's-
next? You're in the forums. What else is going on?
What can't you do? So my first question for you guys, coming from the forums, because I was taken to task yesterday, I think. When do you think the game will ship? What's your prediction for what year it will ship? Ashes will ship.
Define ship.
Launch.
Like actually call themselves launch, not like an early access launch.
Right. They're saying they're not going to do
Not
that.
like a closed beta that the servers aren't going to be reset launch. Actual, they say they're launched.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Nora? What, 2024?
I want to kind of hedge on this one because if they're ahead on their art side from what was going on during the pandemic and the fact that art was probably able to just keep on going and going and going and such, if art's not going to be holding them back and they have all the assets ready by the time that they're code ready, 2023, otherwise 2024, because they have a big world.
They
and a
don't
lot
have
of
all the art assets ready because right, they're making that change to the Duner. So, and they don't have that ready yet. We're going to start taking a look at that next month. So they're making a basically brand new base model for the Duner, and they're using what they have for the
Nikua, which is what I was saying from the beginning, that's more what, not Dunir, what I was looking at when I was seeing them all jumping and flipping and everything.
Well,
that did not seem very Dunir.
I mean, very EQ. I don't know how Dunir are different than EQ, but they were expecting that to be Dunir since that's what they called them in the Alpha 1, and they don't even have base models for the Dunir. So
they aren't even going to play either dwarf race. So what's it matter? I am. So let me call it. No, I'm joking. I'm sure someone there is going to be playing dwarfs.
But
as much as they tried to kill the dwarves in EQN, there will be good dwarves in this.
And we haven't even seen the orcs, and I think we would have seen at least one of the orcs in the game if they had the art assets ready. But
I don't mean that they have the assets ready now. I mean if they're ahead on assets compared to where the rest of the team and security and code and
Yeah, I'm just saying
quests and all that is.
I don't see how they can be ahead if we haven't seen that yet. But so someone asked the question that I got taken to task for. The way it was phrased is, will it be another Star Citizen? And I started by saying, well, it could be because it's a pretty huge game, and they're changing stuff based on our feedback. I mean, they're still working through what they're going to do with the action combat, whether it's going to be split body or root motion or both or whatever. So they're still, you know, working on how they're going to adapt the design to what we players want. But I said it could be because if I recall correctly, Kickstarter for Star Citizen was 2012, and it was supposed to release in 2014. And by late 2014, beginning of 2015, people were already complaining that it hadn't released yet. And I think that's 3 years in there, and we're what 4 years in here, right? 2017 to 2021. So, I mean,
it is Star Citizen. The only difference right now is that they shut down their servers briefly. I mean, that's the only difference. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. Both tried to spawn a second game out of their first game. They both work and live and die off of cash shops that that they don't yet have, but they're promising that they will have. I mean, the only difference, and you buy into play or test, whatever you want to call it. The only difference right now is that, if I remember correctly, Star Citizen at this point would have had their servers up pretty much kind of nonstop, where you could venture around the world, versus Ashes, where they bring them down.
I think one of the key differences is that everything in Star Citizen is a buggy pile, versus once they got the rubber banding and some of the others issues worked out, that final version of the Alpha 1 was actually pretty playable, pretty decent shape overall. Like I'm happy with where it was at for the amount of work they've put in, despite all of its issues. So I think that's kind of the thing is, Star Citizen is one of those games I wanted to love, but I can't. And in this case, it's their fault. Like, it's just, just not a playable experience.
Well, I mean, when did you last play? My understanding is things have improved significantly.
Earlier this year, when the caves dropped, I did it with one of my buddies, and we both got stuck in the terrain. He was able to wiggle out. I wasn't. And the little turd rocks that I picked up in the cave were worth more than the mission itself. So instead of getting lost, if you just go in and grab some rocks, it's worth way more than actually doing the mission.
But the process itself is essentially been this exact. I mean, they've worked off of the Star Citizen model. I mean, that is what they have done. Because it was successful. I mean, they've raised what, $300-400 million. I mean, it's a successful model.
I don't know what Elite Dangerous does, but that game's been doing everything I'd want Star Citizen to do. They just keep catching up to like Star Citizen's actual release goals. Each update at a time, it's getting closer and closer, better and better. It's like, you guys are going to out Star Citizen themselves.
Both have missed.
Just keep on moving.
Both have missed deadlines by years. I mean, Ashes was 2016, promised I think 2018 per Kickstarter. Here we are 3 years later.
When was Crowfall supposed to come out?
I don't know. I'd have to.
That was a few years ago.
It was delayed too, but
yeah, I feel like I first heard about Crowfall in 2014.
Yeah, I mean but they took a similar approach, right, of testing, paying to test. I mean, it's everybody is essentially Star Citizen was that mold that everyone copies at this point.
Well, it's just now they're saying now Ashes is when it's ready, and I think that's okay. But one of the things that you've been saying, I think, for a while now, Phantom, is it seems like they're trying to appeal to everybody, and it's a very big, ambitious game. So, and that's going to take a while. So I said it could be because it could take I mean, typically we're expecting at least 5 years, and it could take Ash's 6 or 7 or 8 years, just because they have so much stuff, and I'm okay with that as long as it's fun to play and they've got the stuff in it.
I have no problem with them releasing content piecemeal. I have absolutely no concerns if they say, well, you know, we're going to release a fourth of the world that we said initially. You know, as long as they have the base, you know, they have the networking down, and it's fun to play.
Yeah.
And they have the crafting, harvesting, all of that, combat PvP. I really don't care if they release even a sixth of what they said they would. Then they can add it on as they go. In many ways, that's almost more beneficial to the consumer because you're getting the product earlier. It's in a playable state. You know, what's the biggest problem with MMOs anymore is you run out of content because you have to wait 2 years for an expansion. You know, in this setting, if you just start out small, you know, every 2, 3, 4 months, you add on another little bit of area to go explore. I mean, it's almost
for everyone.
And then you do big releases for other things. You know, if you add on an entire new continent or you add in a new race or a new class, I mean, you can do bigger releases too, but you can just, you know, over time add more on. And I actually think that's a better model than sitting and waiting for 10 years and then things are just a mess.
The pitfall there, though, is that you run into the landmark problem of having something that you have to keep up and support 24/7, and you don't have time.
No, I don't see it the same. Landmark was testing. I'm talking about an actual game that you would call release.
No, I'm saying
scale.
The problem with Landmark is that it was kept up 24/7, and they kept trying to support that.
That was a game
time to design.
But that was a game that was still in alpha and beta. I'm just referring a released game, but smaller.
Yeah, you're talking about just release the entire game as a whole product in a sixth of the world, and then the free expansions or whatever are going to push out the rest of the map.
Correct. Yeah.
And again, my problem is that you might not get those expansions because they're going to be focused on keeping the game up 24/7.
Well, because they have to. At that point, it'd be released.
That's my point. So
Landmark was never released.
My point is you might not. It doesn't matter. One of the reasons why it wasn't is because they didn't have anybody to work on the real game because they were trying to support the other one 24/7. That's my point. But
you mean next? Yeah.
But
Landmark was next, so
yeah, that's my point. But yeah, I was going to say No Man's Sky. Now, what I like about No Man's Sky, they kind of did what you're saying, Phantom. They released what they had. It wasn't quite the complete thing, but every year they've had an expansion, and it's given more and more and more and more, and that's been free, and that's been great. Like everybody has loved the expansions, and
it's made it super successful, right? And they a little bit different than what I would prefer is to also just add on mechanics later. I would prefer to see most of the basics, what you'd expect from an MMO in. I'm sure they could add other mechanics later, but you know, when I say release, I mean actually functionally release, like it's ready to go.
And
No Man's Sky, but they've added bases, they've added more multiplayer. I mean, they've added some of this later on that, for an MMO, I think would be just not good to add those sorts of things later on. But
instead of being something where here's the game, here's the first expansion, here's the second expansion, here's the third expansion, and they're just parts of the map that are being revealed. No Man's Sky was like, well, here's this bare bones space travel game with a light story, and here's a feature. Here's a feature. Here's a feature. Here's a feature. Well, golly, it's almost like it's a new game at this point. Come play it again, everybody.
And free.
Yeah, it's been keeping eyes on it.
You know, there's been other games. EverQuest 2 did some more smaller sort of content ads within greater expansions early on. I haven't played that game forever. I don't know what they do now, but I just think it would be fine. It'd be beneficial to everyone. You'd look good that you're releasing free content. People would quickly forget that this was actually promised content 5 years ago, but now we're just going to call it free content. And then you do expansions within, larger expansions within that. And even the expansions would be done the same way. Maybe you add a brand new continent, but you only add a fourth of the continent. And then as time goes on, you continue to add more to it. I mean, that keeps everyone's interest high. You get new things to explore every couple months.
There's
So
just one thing that violates in the Ashes of Creation guarantee of what you can see is where you can travel. Because
true.
if you have hard borders like that, it's not going to go over well with people.
It's
and
high
if you
magic.
don't have
It's
hard
high magic.
borders.
It's high magic. We'll come up with a reason.
It's high magic. Okay, you can't survive in the storm. You just cross this border and bam, you're shredded.
Yep.
Like, too bad.
The gods won't let you travel.
I mean, I don't know why that's not done more often. It's going to benefit the players. It's going to benefit I would assume it would benefit the studio because you get to make much smaller targets, content wise over, smaller bunches in a row.
So would you release without orcs, or would you release
Sure.
without Talnar?
Oh, I could give a crap at this point, but I feel like orcs need to be in. I feel like anything that was promised. So in my mind, anything that was sort of an add-on to Kickstarter that was, sort of hey, we reached a milestone, we're going to add this in. That comes later. I mean, I think the base game, when you talk high fantasy, I mean, orcs are central to almost all high fantasy. So I feel like you need to at least have the sort of, the big, well-known sort of races within your scope. You can add things, maybe different kinds of orcs later on.
Okay.
I just think that would be a much better route, and for every, then you're also, again, you're not waiting another 5 years, building up negative energy because everyone's pissed at you because you missed your target by 5 years. I mean, it's just.
I don't know that anybody at the team is necessarily going to be unhappy about it. If it's the audience, well, they're going to keep doing these testing phases along the way, so there will be people able to play and check it out and stream it. So,
I really don't think that the majority of people who have paid or are going to pay would care at this point. There might be an initial, you promised this. I think once people actually get a chance to play and then they start getting this free content, I don't think anyone will care. So I wouldn't use that as a reason not to either. Oh, well, people will get mad at us. Well, they might, but they'll get over it really quick because they'll actually play in your game.
So do you have to have a stage 6 Metropolis nodes at that point, or stage 4 is good enough to start?
What do you mean? Like,
well, we're supposed to have stage 6. Do we wait until stage 6
No.
metros, or you can?
That's
or
existing
is
content.
Stage 4?
You add on to existing content. It can keep doing whatever the hell it wants to do.
Right. So I'm asking. So we saw stage 3 in Alpha 1. Stage 4 would be okay. Stage 4 is town.
Oh, you're talking about if we're at where we're at. Do they add that on later?
I'm saying, in terms of what you're thinking of.
No,
as this
I would
release,
call that
and then it
no,
would,
because that's where I would go back to. It needs, in my mind, they need to have the core features of the game working, and a core feature of Ashes are the nodes, right? So that would be, that would be like I'm thinking more content than function. Like I think they would have to have all their systems working, at least to the degree that it's a fun playable game. The content.
yeah, but
part
that could be, but it could be fun at the town stage. Maybe we don't have to get to the, and we'll get. It's going to take months for us to get to the Metropolis stage anyway.
I mean, maybe a node expansion later on adds a level 7 node. I don't know. Goes above a Metropolis.
Well, that might happen in any case, but I'm just gauging where how much content should be in there. So you're saying it should be at level 6.
Well,
okay. Stage 6.
I don't think I would call that content because I think that needs to be coded and done. It might be that players don't get there before the next content comes to them, but it needs to at least work.
I mean, that's what No Man's Sky said, right? Nobody's even going to find the center. Nobody's even going to run into each other. And
well, no,
but if you need 6 months to get Metropolis up and running after release, and you just time gate it by how long it takes to get up through city and to Metropolis, just so long as you can actually keep that damn promise and that date, you can do it.
They probably won't.
Yeah, but no, that's so a good example.
But that's
right?
not the plan they're doing.
I don't
Yeah.
know. That would be something as a core feature of the game that I would say you need to have that sort of.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more aesthetics and new lands and places to store. Because something that comes to mind with that is EverQuest. So when EverQuest Planes of Power came out, it was a big deal because I don't think they expected people to burn through Planes of Power as fast as they did, and so you had guilds starting to get to Plane of Time, which Plane of Time A and B were like the top of the raids at that point, and the raids didn't work. Like they didn't have working raids with the release of the expansion. They were buggy, and I think the assumption is like they didn't expect people to get there that quick, right? That they would have sort of things patched in as they go, and they just didn't. Mm-hmm. And actually, that was probably one of the times because I think, gosh, I'd have to look. Plane of Time probably came out around the same time that World of Warcraft started sort of getting into knowledge and testing, and that might have been one of the big reasons people started to kind of leave EverQuest. I'd have to go back and Google that, but that was sort of a big deal at the time because of this reason, right? They probably thought, well, we'll tell you it exists, doesn't yet exist, but we had a time, but as you mentioned, players will do what you don't expect them to do, and that sort of, when you have a very core high level feature, that would need to be absolutely figured out and in game. I consider that just a part of nodes in general, and nodes needs to be solid for this game to succeed on any level.
Which is the part that I think is going to take years for them to do. So, but okay.
So, anyways.
No, those were good. Those were good answers to those questions.
I mean, I just really don't understand why more developers don't take that approach. I don't know if it's the concern that they're going to make people mad because they promised something and didn't deliver. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Although I guess there's not a ton of. Well, I guess New World will probably take that approach, right? So New World's kind of releasing, and the expectation is a lot more content's going to come along the way.
Yeah, that is their model.
Yeah, so I mean, they're actually kind of taking that approach. So there's plenty of good examples for Steven to look around and take off of, not just Star Citizen's skin selling game, but others.
I suppose the other thing to think about is that he does have a lot of industry veterans that are on the team, so it's not like he's coming into this blind and without guidance and without people that have been around this rodeo once or twice. So if it's approached as a collaborative effort to figure out their release plans and all of that, I'm sure they'll come to something that will end up working. I think just the current trajectory they have right now, have the different alpha phases, have the different beta phases. There'll be downtime in between while that happens, but that's fine. It'll build more hype and more anticipation for the next iteration. And it's probably better to have big breaks and big gaps like that, so it is interesting. I saw the population of the group that I was playing with go from, I think, 40 plus in the channel at the beginning of the month, all the way down to maybe like 2 or 3 people participating in some of the final raids at the end in the last week. So it's kind of a funky sort of thing that it is definitely better to have a cutoff at some point. Mm-hmm. Put in more features, utilize the feedback, but also utilize that time to do a lot of the things that you were intending to do and maybe even have been doing on the side while it was going, just didn't merge in because it's still too experimental.
I mean, away.
Yep. And so that's probably going to be a good approach for them going forward. Even if it ended up being like 1 month on, 1 month off for the rest of development, or like 1 month on, 3 months off for, real big getting the world in features and stuff like that. It's going to work out. I think people are going to continue being excited for it. They do a good job of kind of keeping everyone engaged, getting all the social media messaging out, like, once or twice a day with International Blank Day and then something about one of their assets, telling the story about it or asking a silly question about it. Mm-hmm. So they've been doing a good job with the social media engagement in general. They've been doing things to kind of keep the hype train going. And it's not like Not like we saw with EverQuest Next Landmark, where the hype train came to the full crescendo, and it's like, all right, what are we doing from here? This is going to be more like little waves kind of going up and up and up with each one, but I think it's going to work out for them. I think if it's going to take till 2026, like, that kind of sucks, but at least we'll get to see all the developments along the way, which is kind of nice, and be able to help give feedback on it and help shape it into a game that a lot of people are going to want to play.
I mean, you look back to the old way, right, and how excited people would get, sort of, I think of like Vanguard or even World of Warcraft, right? You know, you're hidden through so much of your development. People can only guess, and it gets really exciting to kind of talk about it in Theorycraft. And then all of a sudden you hit open beta, and it's just like nuts, and everyone's. And then you have sort of the Crowfall, more modern model, where they've been just out there for the last 5 years. Of you could jump in and play and test, and their servers never go away. I mean, I'm sure they're proud of what they've done. That game seemed to fall just incredibly flat, and I think it's because it was just out there and visible far too long. So people lose interest over time. Well, I tested that 3 years ago.
It could also just be that the mechanics weren't great. I think that was one of the things that really helped kill Shroud of the Avatar, is that at the end of the day, the mechanics and everything, it wasn't fun. It didn't make a fun and compelling experience that drove me to chase stories and find hidden stuff and talk to people all over the world. I just didn't get there. And then the whole thing where, it's like a player curated world. It's like everybody's got their own little sandbox and their freeholds. Yeah, when it's a player city and not a normal city, when you walk in and there's squared off hedges going all the way to the ceiling of the area with like one little archway that the owner can get through back and forth. And they're all just built like that. It's like you gotta get like an HOA going or something, because this is ridiculous. This is not pretty. This does not constitute something that looks like a well curated player driven city. This just looks like fucking boxed down.
That's the problem with any game that's going to rely on their players to create their content. That's the problem of Landmark. There were some wonderful people in Landmark, and I think some of them actually even took that on as like a career later on. I can't remember. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, Adam Sieve or somebody, that went on to work with Voxel Farm. I think worked with Voxel Farm.
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah,
I remember Evil FX. He still runs his own channel and does stuff. He's still around.
There are some brilliant people, but that's like, you're talking a couple dozen. And if you're going to release this to the world and try to have 1 million players creating their own content for you, that's just not going to work. Sorry. It kind of works for, I guess, the Super Mario Maker, but that's a different genre of game. So.
Also talking about strange looking crap. Gamers are not necessarily architects or artists.
Some are.
Some are. But when you're talking about millions, you're going to get some crap. A lot of it.
Well, castles and crap shacks, man.
That's what I'm saying.
The show.
So, I didn't even have the crap shacks because I couldn't figure out the tools to build a crap shack.
Although that's one of the things that I liked about Valheim, building homes, is you could look at what was already crafted and kind of learn how to craft similar stuff very easily.
Yeah, exactly. Now, right in chat, right at the exact same time there. So that's my Valheim village. Yeah, no, it's got a very good system. I really like the building in that game. It's like just very satisfying.
And I guess I should clarify what I mean by that is when you're actually offering them sort of development tools, not placing of already made objects, but when you're actually asking them to create literally the content.
I'm saying you can get some crap.
You'll get some really good things, and in between that, a whole lot of penises.
Well, that too.
The Lego MMO debacle. You can't make a game that's for kids and not expect dicks. They will always find dicks. They will always make dicks. Roblox, I'm sure, has the same problem too. Dicks.
Well, and not much better than AI stories or names, and you get a bunch of monkeys trying to type out Shakespeare, and it's not all going to be Shakespeare. So one other thing I want to talk about with the Dunier and the new Dunier model, we're supposed to see possibly at the end of this month for the live stream a little bit of work in progress on this new base model. And my fly on the wall tells me that we probably won't get size comparisons, but I think that's something that we need to see fairly quickly, because that's one of the things that people are really concerned about, is how tiny the dwarves seem compared to the other races. So I think
I don't think it was a matter
complaints. Huh?
I was gonna say, I don't think it's a matter of shortness. I think it's a matter of not being like ultra like thick in all the places.
It's both. So it's height, it's thickness, and the kind of thing I'm a little bit concerned about is Stephen has mentioned stout, but one of the big things is width. And I haven't seen Stephen mention width. So, but yeah, no, some people are saying they're too short. That's one of the things that make them look like gnomes. And I think, based on what I've seen in Pathfinder, they do seem maybe an inch or two shorter when I do size comparisons with the current model. A lot of the problem too is that the camera is so far out that it kind of changes perspective a lot. Girth, that's front to back, because people have also been complaining about width. That's specifically one of the forum titles, is will they be bigger and wider? So yeah, but again, height is kind of part of it too. So yeah, let's see. I hope maybe if it can't be in September, maybe in October, at least by November, we can get some size comparisons with the other races, so we can see.
I mean, they better do it sooner
direction
rather than later, because they've set some semi-dangerous precedent here, right? Of saying, okay, well, we're going to listen to you and throw out an entire model.
Yeah, well, at least they aren't throwing it out. They're just making a second one.
But it could very well be that they just A/B tested us. It's like, well, we're going to use what we think is probably going to be for the Nikua, but we're going to market it as Dunier. If they accept it as Dunier, that's great. But if they all say, no, we want, Warcraft, Lord of the Rings dwarves.
I think the plan was that this was going to be Dunier, and they got so many complaints there because they tried to even adjust it, because we heard in December that they're in December 2020, Stephen on the live on the live stream said, we've heard your complaints, we're going to adjust the Dunier, and they tried to make it that model actually a little thicker, but
girthier.
But yeah, and then they decided we'll just make a whole new model. So I think this was the plan, to have that be the Dunier. But
should just make a Dunier and call him Girth.
That too.
So we're getting towards the end. I did want to.
But you might be the only fan.
No, I'm not going to name him that. You think I'm crazy? But I did want to touch on crafting, because that becomes one of the next starts, or what we've been promised, the next testing phases, and sort of what we look forward to. Because I've been wrapped up in Black Desert Online now for a couple of weeks. I mean, just head to toe, wrapped up. A lot of it's almost a dream game from a crafting, harvesting, exploration for me. And I hope they look to this sort of thing for vision on their crafting, kind of how they address it. It's super interesting. So it's a super complex game. I'm sure you've experienced that did, 'cause there's a lot of little things that you sort of learn that I don't know yet either. But everything is really just tied together very well. So, your harvesting to your crafting, the exploration has to come about in harvesting, right? So you can craft as an individual character. So you can go and harvest things, but you can also hire workers. So you can build a worker empire that go out and harvest things for you. They also will craft objects for you and do some processing as well. But in order to get them to go out, you have to connect to a node. So you have to explore to the node. You have to invest in the node. So you have to be strategic in which nodes you invest in. Now you can always pull back investment, but anyways, it's this very complex crafting system that's just been super interesting to me. This idea of life skills is what they call it. So that encompasses like a lot of things: fishing, harvesting, your alchemy, your cooking, horse training, bartering, trading with other NPCs. These are all like considered life skill. And I've essentially leveled my character all the way up just by using life skills. And it's been like the perfect crafting game for me. I mean, you do a lot of AFK stuff within it as well. So there's a time sinks involved, but for me, I don't mind them. So a lot of overnight, I'll just set my character to fish, minimize the game, and you do AFK fishing. But you're getting skill ups, right? You're leveling through the process, and as you level, you gain mastery, and as you gain mastery, you gain more perks. Even just running, like your character running, gains a skill in with running, or riding your horse. Yeah, that's how you level up your horse. You have pets. You can have up to 5 pets with you that actually will aid in things like combat, but also gathering and life skills, and they level up as well and gain skills. And your workers themselves, it becomes a mini game in of itself, because your workers will level up. There's different quality workers. They level up to level 30. And they gain their own skills. So you can teach them new skills, or you can sell them. So if you don't like how your worker has leveled up, you can put them on a market. Now that gets into obviously very suggestive slave trade, but it's just
it's like sports teams. They don't have a draft. You just have to get them from other people.
Yeah, except they're taking a pickaxe to go get ore for you. But
sports trades cost money.
It's been very interesting. I've had a super lot of fun, not touched combat unless I've had to. And that even gets into the harvesting component. You can harvest skin, you can harvest meat, you can harvest blood from animals. So anyways, for anyone that has played BDO, I know some people really don't like it. It's been out since 2014? It's been out a while. And it's gone through quite a bit of changes. I hated it for its UI initially. The UI has gotten much better. But for where I've come to as far as what I would like to do in an MMO, this has been pretty perfect. It's kind of a single player in a multiplayer world. There are interactions. There's a lot of PvP as the combat focus. There's some chat about in-game and BDO. I hate the word in-game, number one. But there's not like the traditional group content that you'd expect in most MMOs, right? So dungeons and massive raids. There is some, but really the focal point of in-game combat-wise is PvP, which I don't really care about. But I had some concerns when you go past level 50. If you want to go to level 50 and beyond, you have to become eligible for PvP. You have to flag if you want to participate, but you can still be killed. So it's a similar approach to what Ashes will be taking. And in BDO, you get negative karma. So if you kill someone, your karma starts to go down, and if it gets too low, then you become kill on sight, and you lose extra things if you die. Interestingly, you also gain back karma by killing monsters, which I believe is a tactic that Ashes is going to use in order to get corruption away. In many ways, it sounds like corruption is just karma. But I'm curious what you have felt like experience-wise playing BDO. Because you're an explorer. I don't know how much you've taken the time to explore. It's a massive, massive world.
Yeah, I mean, Well, I spent way too much time fishing. Um, I hate the combat in BDO. Um, Mechanics. It's too actiony, and I don't feel like I'm playing an assassin, and I don't feel like I'm an assassin. I don't feel like an assassin. And I feel like I'm just mashing a bunch of buttons and killing a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't make me feel like I'm fulfilling a role or anything. I'm just button mashing and killing stuff. Using
The old face roll,
abilities.
huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it. Other than appearance, like I do like I do kind of like the gear that I'm wearing in terms of aesthetically looks, but I mean, I, I'd rather be more strategic with my combat, and I'd rather actually be using abilities that make me feel like as I've told Phantom, one of the things I love about Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is I feel like a rogue or a thief there, and I love slitting people's throats or anything. I'll slit anything's throat in Kingdoms of Ashes. Amalur. And in Valheim, I love using my shield to shield bash things away. I love sneaking. I feel like I'm a hunter when I'm in Valheim, and I don't feel like that in BDO. And then the exploration is pretty cool. I do kind of like the cultures that I see of the goblins and the um, well, pretty much everything that I've come across. I can't even remember now, but um, I liked seeing these little tribal areas and kicking down their totems and stuff like that. That's kind of fun. Um, and I haven't gotten into the crafting too much. The fishing was fun. Um, Gathering is okay, but I haven't delved into the
Oh, there's so much
crafting.
tool differences, clothing differences, pots, food, pets
Yeah.
help gathering. Fishing, building sailboats. Right, there's various levels of. You can start off with a raft, get a rowboat, then you move on to a fishing boat, and you can go on to galleons and just make tons of money trading shit. To me, it's fun because I've not even got into bartering. I finally, after several weeks, did some horse training, actually capturing horses and starting that process. Part of what's fun to me is this idea of a short attention span and things that get repetitive. Right, I tend to just after a week I'm kind of done. And with this, it's like I can just move on to a different aspect of the game, right? I can just, okay, I'm going to focus, because my next thing to try to do is start focusing on alchemy. I haven't done that at all. So it's such a large game in scope when it comes to life skills. I just hope that I think the perfect game would have that combined with your traditional sort of World of Warcraft party content, raid content, because that does not exist in BDO. But I'm at a point where I just don't really care too much about whether it exists. The PvP, from my understanding, is also not very fun. At this point, you've had people playing for 8 years that are light years ahead of where you'll ever get within character development from a PvP perspective. There's a cash shop component to it. Now, I will say I've not felt overly compelled to purchase things from the cash shop, but you don't have to. There are some pay-to-win mechanics, but it's from a life, and I like the term life skills. I mean that's it's just been super interesting for me.
Yeah, we should once I have more time, which I have not had in the last 2 weeks. I should jump in and you can show me more about the crafting. The questing system is a little tedious and strange too.
Oh, I love the questing system. It's logical.
But where to go and I don't know. There's weird stuff.
You got to figure it out.
Okay, but the leveling system at least is smooth. Like you kind of feel like everything you do increases your level. It sounds like that's not a great thing because you'll hit 50 and then I'm not going to want to PvP. So maybe I don't want to hit
so
50.
I should clarify that. I have not once had anyone gank me ever. And I mean, I do quite a bit of AFK stuff. So I don't, and that's what I read, because that was sort of my thought too. Like, okay, I need to figure out, because you don't have to go, you have to do it. You have to actively do a quest that says, I want to go to level 50. And so that was my question too, is I don't really want to be troubled but I've not had, and what I read is in general, you might once or twice a year have someone that just decides they just are going to be a dickhead, or you're harvesting in a spot that they want, and so they just kill you. But that's not a big issue. The quests I find actually very interesting, because it's not just the traditional like quest hubs. Now they're quest hubs, but they're all interconnected within these nodes, and they're sort of a logical progression, right? So someone says, hey, I need you to go, you want to learn about, some sort of cook. You have different types of quests. You have cooking, you have alchemy, you have combat. And it's a logical progression of, hey, why don't you go harvest me something, some sort of herb. So you go do that, you gain experience doing that, you bring it back, you turn it in, you get experience turning it in. And the next quest is, okay, well, here, take this back. I want you to make me something. And there's this sort of natural progression where not only is your character learning something, you're learning something. And each step along the way, you're gaining different types of experience just from doing this. So I've actually enjoyed it. To me, there's actually too many quests. But I found that to be much more compelling than the sort of go kill 10 rats and then you move on to kill 10 kobolds. There's a logical nature to it. So I don't know. I've had a lot of fun. I would say anyone that's tried it before that didn't like it, that's how I was.
But we were playing the summer season thing that was kind of speeding us along too.
Correct.
So
that's important. They do seasons now. I think that for anyone that played it in the past, that they have seasonal servers that last for a couple of months that basically give you just enormous amounts of bonus experience. And so the progression through it, and that's entirely intended to get new characters and new players playing. So it makes it easier and for me more fun. Now those characters at the end of a season get transferred off of a season server and just to a normal server. But and you also are benefited for you are in many ways encouraged to have alts. You actually get bonuses by having more characters. So.
Okay.
I don't even mind the travel. There's no fast travel. You got to ride your damn horse everywhere, but that levels up your horse. That levels up your skill.
I like running, so it was fine for me. I didn't mind. I don't even know if I've got a horse yet, but the running so far was fine.
You could go tame one right now. When you learn the trading skill, you start off, you have to carry stuff on your back, and it actually slows your character, and you have to run to the trading post, but eventually you can build a wagon to transfer stuff for you. So it's just a super super interesting game for me. So and almost everything you see out in the world has the potential to be harvested. I think I talked about that before. I'm finding that I definitely like that more than the sort of random iron ore spawn that is static, that you get one or two pieces out of. I like the idea of being able to grab stuff from everywhere as you see it. So I by far do not know much about this game. There's so much more to figure out. So
I'm definitely a fan of the gather what you can see sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that, because that's a real big thing in a New World. But again, New World is a survival game, and that's common for survival. What I mean by that, it started as a survival game that's trying to now become an mmorpg. And as we think about the systems and mechanics of New World and how they might apply for an mmorpg, when I look at New World in play, it feels like a survival game and a lot of its mechanics. That's why you can harvest everything. That's kind of standard for survival games. Um, the more of that we could get in MMORPGs, sure, okay. I think that might have economy consequences, but um, yeah, I don't think you can necessarily harvest everything you see in BDO. It could just be because I didn't have the right tools to do it. But how is that, Phantom?
Do what now? Harvest every.
Yeah.
I mean, for
Is
the
it
most
just
part, you can either as you're running, not everything, but it is a world that has much more interactive aspects to it, right? The trees, the brushes. It's not on the level of New World where almost literally anything you see you can interact with, but it's up there.
And so like trees, if I wanted to cut down a tree, would I have to recognize the type of tree that I can cut down, or just pretty much go up to any tree?
Almost any tree, and there's a ton of different kinds. Now, if you're questing, they might ask for a plank
Specific
of pine, and you have to go find pine trees, and then you got to process the pine trees in order to get the item that they want. Some quests you can turn in an item if you just go buy it, or if you've already made it. Many quests, they actually make you go through the steps. You have to harvest it, then you have to process it, and then you can turn it in. But again, part of what makes it not feel so tedious is that you're gaining experience with every step. So there's some part of your game that's getting benefit out of what you're doing. So, well, all right, we have quickly run out of time here. So
Yeah.
we appreciate everyone for watching. Hopefully, we'll be getting to talk about Alpha 2 somewhat in the next couple of months. And yeah, so thanks for coming. We'll be hopefully back next week, or if not, the week after that. And we hope to see you here. So have a good week.
So then, have a good one.